Well, when there's not that male influence there around you to show you, there's this void and there's this hunger for that male attention. And I definitely needed that and wanted that in my life. I came out of the adult entertainment business. I was a topless dancer for a few years. I left the business when I came to know the Lord. It was literally Him just calling out to me. A Bible was sitting on a table, and I heard it call my name. And I was in the middle of living a very fast life. I lived at night and slept during the day, did drugs, and just was generally living a very dark life. When He one day just came, out of nowhere and really touched me. And at first I pushed it away and said, I don't have anything in common with this. But He called, like 3 days later, really, He came again. The Bible was sitting there again, and I heard, read me, really loud. And so I went over and I flipped it open toward the back this time. And He really spoke to me that day. And ever since then, nobody knew that I was reading the Bible for 3 months and started changing on the inside. And that led to conviction, of course, eventually. And I ended up giving my life over to Christ. I didn't even know what had happened, really. I did not know that I had gotten saved, as the Bible talks about. But and from then on, I left the club and began to change dramatically, and literally lost all of my friends. I think it was best at the time, but I just dramatically changed. I mean, it was a total turnaround, an about face, and God laid it on my heart to help other women come out of the business.
Tell me your story about your father. What was he like?
My father I always loved my father. I mean, my father and my mother divorced when I was around 4 years old. He never really lived in the same city. During the summers, really up until I was about, I want to say 12, we would go and spend the entire summer with our father. So we did get some time with him, but his life was lived very differently than that of my mom's life. They kind of like to party, My dad is a rocker, My dad, I love my dad. Very funny guy. So yeah, for the most part, I mainly saw my father during the summertime.
How do you think his absence affected you as a young girl?
There was definitely a void missing there, mainly during the school year. Really mainly in my teenage years. We didn't go see him on the summers when I was a teenager. So I don't know why, but we just kind of stopped happening. So, so I didn't see him very much. And so when I left home, when I was around 16, almost 17, he, you know, I got to see him because I moved out of my mom's house. I ran away and decided to drop out of high school and make my own life. Really smart. And it was just really difficult, of course, you know, going out on your own. And he did actually help me leave a very abusive relationship. You know, when I was about 18, I was engaged to someone who was very abusive and mainly emotionally abusive, and an alcoholic. And he helped me leave him, safeguard me so that I could leave him, and moved me out of there. And that's when I went and lived with my mom again.
Not having that father around, did it create this longing for attention from men, which is then what maybe led you into the lifestyle?
Oh, yes, absolutely. When there's not that male influence there around you to show you, there's this void and there's this hunger for that male attention. And I definitely needed that and wanted that in my life. I don't know that I went into the club consciously thinking that, but, you know, being up on stage and having all, you know, that attention and, you know, the false glamour, I would say, it was this false sense of glamour and, you know, and you're young. I mean, I was very young when the first time I went into the club was when I was around 16 and danced for the first time. They didn't ask for ID, so I just went in, braces on, had braces on.
How do you think your life might have been different if your father would have been there?
Oh. You know, that is such an ambiguous thing to think about. You know, there's so much that could have been changed, like not moving all the time, changing schools all the time. Maybe we would have been planted somewhere securely for more than a year or two, you know. So lots of things. I mean, and just having him around to hang out with and, you know, learn from, and it would have been, I'm sure, very different. There were a lot of neighbors, and like there would be couples that we would hang out with, like over the years, like wherever we moved, we would kind of find that place where there was a family with a great father around.
It's okay.
Hello.
It's okay.
So, you know, there was one couple in particular, was a Christian couple. Gary and Nadine, I remember their names. It was when I was about 8 or 9. Such a sweet family, and really just kind of took me in and my sister in, and we didn't live with them, but we spent a lot of time with their family, and you just got to see, there were bits and pieces there throughout the years where we got to see what it was like, you know, with healthy families and healthy, you know, not that my family wasn't healthy, it was just my father wasn't there. So you got to see the whole dynamic of, and be a part of it, and see how it felt. So, I mean, there was little people throughout time that helped kind of show you. I really wanted that in my life, and that's why we really sought it out too. I mean, and always talked about how it would be great to have our mom and dad back together. And my sister and I, we had all these little schemes that that we would try to do to bring them back, but it wasn't happening. They were two different people. So,
How did it, if I may ask, how did it impact your sister?
I think it affected her more. She was younger. I was always the more independent. I'm going to do this on my own. I saw it, so my sister, but she's resilient. I mean, she was resilient as well, with that. But I think because of her age and the desire to, I think it affected her as well. She never took the path that I did, though. I would say I would say that she actually stayed out of it pretty much, I mainly because I wouldn't let her. I'm going to do it, but you can't, so.
In the girls that you saw, was there that common theme in a father that was lacking, or what did you see?
With the women?
Yeah.
Yes. Every single woman. Absolutely. I mean, pretty much all women. I mean, you'd have your occasional woman in the club who, was just there. I don't know, maybe she was going through a midlife crisis or something, and she was a little older, and she just wanted to get out there and do her thing. But for the most part, most of the women were there purely to make money or to survive, in this world.
If you had to guess what percentage of women that were dancing,
Right.
didn't have an engaged, involved father in their life full time, what percentage would you say?
Oh, like 90% plus.
And looking back now in that lifestyle, what did you see as the struggle that women dealt with on a daily basis?
Oh,
Was it a self-esteem issue? Was it where
depression, depression, and really just their self-worth, how they view themselves. I would say depression and their self-worth and generally how they view themselves. Okay, because you have to understand where they're at and what they're doing causes them to see themselves by what they're doing, with their bodies and it affects their emotions and their mind and generally the way they see themselves. Really, that's what we kind of come in and we take that out and we say, okay, the old is passed away, all becomes new from here on out. What you thought you were is not what you are, but you are what God made you to be. And He's your Father. He's the one you look at for your identity, because that's where they find their identity. They find their identity in their parents, and just in general, with their family. And really their father is a huge part of that. And when it's missing, they fill that void with the attention, and it's negative attention. It's the negative attention of, he's looking at me, he's giving me attention, he's giving me love, he tells me I'm pretty, he tells me that I'm the best, the greatest woman ever, and it's just a false sense of identity. It's when it's really just flattery, and it's, most of the time it's just talk. It's not real. It's a mirage. That's what it is.
Okay, concerning a woman's self-worth, how do you think a father has an effect on that?
Has everything to do with that. Everything. Really finding your identity in life, you do look back at your parents, and because you're half of each one of them, and your father, because especially being a girl or a woman, you can identify with your mother pretty easily because she's a female. But your father really shows you how a man is going to treat you, how a man is going to love you. Your mind really goes the direction of however your father handled you with men. And so you take that with you. You take whatever was ingrained from 0 to 18 or however long, and even until, I guess it just goes on until you pass away. But for the most part, I believe that the father is probably the more important role in a woman's life because it's the opposite sex. Like with a mom, you tend to be able to relate to your mother better because you're a woman. So, but I think with the really seeing who you are and your identity, and really knowing how you're going to react to other men in your life as you get older, and how you deal with authority, how you see authority in society, you look back at your father.
With your story specifically, with your dad not being there full time, so then what was your view of men?
They're going to leave me. I'm not worthy to be with a man. They don't care about me enough to stay around. Those were my fears. Those are my fears about it, about men in general, related to the father situation.
I know me with my dad and what he did with taking his own life. I suffered very much from abandonment. How did that play out in your life with your dad?
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You need a tissue. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll be okay. Yeah, I felt very lonely, and I spent a lot of time alone. My mother was a very hard-working woman. So naturally, we came home from school alone. I just always remember thinking, how different would it have been to have my dad there, supporting us. and possibly having my mother stay at home like June Cleaver and Donna Reed.
What do you wish your dad would have done differently?
I wish he would have fought harder for my mom. You know, because I think that, you know, that's how you're going to see marriage too, you know, as a daughter. You're going to see that and sometimes repeat what has gone on with your mother and father. I just found God to be somewhere out there, somewhere. No one that was personal, no one that was there really, but someone maybe somewhere out there, you know. And, you know, that's kind of how I viewed my dad for a long time, you know, because he wasn't near to me. He was living in another city. So in a sense, yeah, I mean, I think on that, from that perspective and my perspective, God was there. It's just that he was far away. Like my dad was, you know?
What was the most memorable experience with your father?
Just going to the beach with him. You know, we lived kind of near Padre Island down there, and went there a lot during the summer. Built sand castles and played in the beach and spent all day there. I mean, we would spend all day at the beach. Those are the times I remember with my dad. My dad, my dad is hilarious, okay? There is nothing, I mean, anything that he says is funny to me. I mean, he just has that one of those sense of humors, and he used to do this goofy dance that to make us laugh, and yeah, so he's a funny guy. Rocker.
What are the good things that you learned from your dad?
How to treat people. He was, he's always been a very giving person. Always. Always was the one that took care of his mom. Always. Still does. He gives when he doesn't really have a lot. You know, he's a very kind person. And my father grew up with an alcoholic dad who was very abusive. So he was really, like, since he was a kid, taking care of his mom. So he was always a kind person, always.
What would you say are the bad things you learned from your dad?
And drug abuse around us, and just grew up not having him around. But nobody's perfect. I wasn't perfect. I don't blame my dad for anything that has gone on with me. Those were my decisions, my choices. I was a smart young woman, but made very bad decisions. You can be smart and not make good decisions based on your emotions and how you're feeling at the time. Like, I feel like this, so I'm just going to do this. I don't really care if it affects me or you. I'm just going to do it because this is what makes me feel good at the time. So those were my decisions.
Okay, ministry, the girls you deal with.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about self-worth. Let me ask you a question another way. If a dad gives his daughter the love and affection and attention and value and cherish her like he should,
Yeah.
do you think a daughter struggles with self-worth?
No, not so much. Because children are resilient anyways. I mean, they're going to bounce back. They do. They bounce out of this. They don't allow themselves to get too down for too long because there's always something new to learn. There's always something new, and they're growing. They're in the middle of growing. So, and progressing in who they are. So they're finding themselves. And so they look to the next people that they're around, or they look to the next. I mean, and this is just coming from what I came out of, moving a lot. And I grew up learning to make friends very quickly and learning to let them go very quickly and not being too emotionally attached to people, So I found myself over the years saying, oh, it's okay. We don't have to be friends, for long, and if you have to move or I have to move, it's okay. I learned over the years, I was trained basically to be very outgoing, yet be able to leave people behind fairly easily without getting too crushed inside,
Did you struggle with then letting people, even men, get too close to you because you knew they were going to leave you?
No, because I wanted that in my life, Did I confide in them things, share deep things with them about myself? No, because I didn't want to be rejected. I didn't want to say the wrong thing, or, just generally being very insecure, in who I was at the time. And just generally not allowing myself to be too close, like I wanted what I wanted, but I'm not going to let you in too much. You know what I'm saying?
This sense of rejection, is that something that played out? The fear of rejection, is that something that played out in your life?
Oh, yeah. And I would choose people that were easily dismissible, or people that I knew, you always, I don't know that I would consciously choose the people like this, but you kind of pick things that won't work out anyways, so that you can say in the end, well, I didn't figure it would work out. So, so you're just basically setting yourself up for failure so that you can say, well, I wasn't rejected, or I would dump you first before you dump me so that I wouldn't feel rejected. I think you do a lot of that in your life, You do a lot of that in your friendships. I mean, I'm going to let you go first because I don't want to feel rejected.
In these girls that you're dealing with that are trying to escape the adult entertainment industry, what's the biggest struggle you see?
Not having a good family around them, first and foremost. Not having a good mother or good father around them to help them. So when the girls come to our meetings and we have our support group meetings, this is sometimes the first time that they've had a group of women come around them and be their family around them, so that we're there to encourage them and show them that there's a way out. God can do anything in their life, and we help them through the process. We set them up with mentors. Mentor will come alongside of a girl and be there for her daily, and then meet with her once a week outside of our support group meeting, and really help them find their identity in Christ. And really, the sky's the limit. They can be whatever they want to be in life. They don't have to be confined to the idea of who they were, but rather go forward and with a whole new vision for their life, no more negative thinking. We instill positive thinking. You know, when we have a girl come in and tell her story, and their stories get so dark sometimes that it's just nuts. Their stories are so dark, and we just really come alongside of them and help them see that it is no longer like that. It is not going to be like that again. From here on out, this is who you are. This is where you're going. Where do you see your life in 5 years? Write it down. We want to focus on that. We want to pray with you on this, and we want to help you in any way we can to come out of this. But really, the first thing is they need love around them, that love of a family, that love and that support and that encouragement and that vision of who they are comes from that, which is missing with father not being there. Or most of the girls, you know, that I minister to were either sexually molested by their fathers, or they were abused emotionally or physically by their fathers, or just completely abandoned by their fathers. So, and each story with the worst being that of someone had been like sexually molested by their father, let's say, their story is always their testimony from there until up to the point where they come to the meeting is always so much worse than that of someone who was just abandoned. Because then when you're abandoned, yes, you see that you've been abandoned, but at least you have a dream of what he could have been like. Whereas some of these girls who've had been abused by their fathers know what their father is like. And they capture that identity within themselves saying, well, that's who I came from, so this must be what I'm about, you know? So we try to smash that. I mean, nope, that's not it anymore. It doesn't have to be that way. And we're here, and we're going to help you, and we're not going to let you go back that way again. This is a new road. But the girls that we minister to, the worse their background is with their father, especially in the early years, from 1 to 10, will guide how bad it is from 10 to 20. 10 to 20 is where all of the really bad stuff tends to go on, when you've had a bad childhood with a dad. Trusting, I have a hard time trusting male relationships. And that, I believe that comes from my relationship with my dad. I had an epiphany of sorts back when I was about 30. When I turned 30, I finally realized something. And it was like a revelation. I realized as children, you know, you're growing up as children and you go into your teenage years. And all these years you have this grand, fanciful idea of what your parents are, okay? And so you put false expectations on them. You really do. And as the years go on, you start learning that, wow, they're really not going to do what I thought that they would do, or your expectations are not getting met. You tend to put false expectations on your parents for the most part. because you have this grand idea of who they are when you're a kid, and you build them up because that's where you came from. So you tend to see them that way. You want to see them on this pedestal of, he's great, he's strong, he's He-Man. And, even thought, growing up, because my dad kind of looked like He-Man during that time, his big muscles and blonde hair, and so you have this vision of your parents being grandiose. And, as the years go on, you realize that they really aren't perfect, that they really aren't going to do what I thought that they would do. And and even in conversations, I want them to react this way when I tell them this. I want them to do this when I do this for them, So you put all these false expectations on them. Well, I just got that revelation one day, and I thought, okay. And God really showed me, just love them the way they are. Just love them for who they are. They're never going to be what you want them to be. Just like people, We put a lot of false expectations on people to be this, 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 and this. And we don't have to do that. And that comes from the Father. It comes from growing up and having that grandiose vision of what they should be. And when you really learn to let go and love people and love them, love your parents and honor your parents for who they are, no matter what they have done. And even though some stories are, that we especially hear are so traumatic that, there's any wonder, but only God can do that healing and that forgiveness in a girl's heart.
What advice would you give fathers?
Love on your daughters. Take them out. Show them what it's like. Be the one to fill that void. Open the door for them. Do the things you're teaching them. You're teaching them how to be treated when they get older by a man. And what things they will find in you as a father, what they are going to be looking for later in a man, in a husband. So you have to train them on how, and it really is training. I'm sorry. It is. It's ingrained in us. Whatever is being done throughout the years it's a training process. So we have to be very mindful of this, even as moms. I'm a mom, and so everything I say and everything I do is going to be reflected in them later. My daughter is going to act like me later, whether she likes it or not. My son is going to act like his father, already does. So it's just the way it's going to be. So just be there, love them, love your daughters completely.
Watch the Father Effect movie for free on YouTube.